Welcome to the Corporate Knights podcast. I'm your host, Toby Heaps. In this episode, we caught up with David Suzuki on the busy streets in front of the Toronto Stock Exchange. We're walking on King Street, and we get his thoughts on Canada's clean tech economy. Here's what he had to say.
I hate the fact that we've had government after government that have done bugger all in this whole area, and yet they keep saying, oh, we're world leaders. We're not world leaders. We're way behind the times. Even on climate change, Canada could have been up at the head of the pack. But we've just failed over and over again. I want to remind you, Brian Mulroney set up a committee. It was Science Council of Canada, and the committee was headed by Ursula Franklin, who's one of our eminent scientists. She came out with her report, and it was called Canada as a Conserver Society. And what she said was, if Canada made the investments now, we could become world leaders in wind power and solar power in geothermal. In 1978, we could have been leaders if we had taken this seriously. And what did we do? We didn't do a goddamn thing. Denmark, Germany, they all saw the problem. Germany has created 400,000 jobs in the renewable energy sector. Denmark's 20% of its energy is coming from windmills. Canada did bugger all. The problem with Canada is that we have never really had the confidence in what we're doing to be able to say, let's put our money in here and become world leaders. We blow it again and again. And a lot of it is, I believe, we don't believe in ourselves.
You were going to come up with a policy or a couple of policies to make Canada the global leader in clean tech?
Yeah.
What would they be?
We need to put a price on carbon. The carbon tax is the most important thing. Well, putting a price on carbon.
Yeah. If your technology, sometimes clean tech has lots of promise, but what would you say are some of the limitations of technology?
Well, I think our problem is that we use technology as a solution before the technology has even been proved.
Sure.
We now are putting a huge amount of emphasis. Indeed, all the money that this Harper government is committing is all going to carbon capture and sequestration. It's a totally unproved technology, and they're going to put all the emphasis on that. That's crazy, because if we had 30 years ago said, what is our potential energy future? Everybody would have said fusion. What if we had based all of our energy programs on the idea of fusion as a technology? Now they're saying, oh, we'll develop the shit out of the tar sands because it's going to be carbon capture and sequestration. It's crazy.
If you were sitting down, you had President Obama and President Yu from China, and you're after Copenhagen, no deal quite yet, and you have to crack some heads and get a deal going. What's your advice to them?
The thing I say in Canada, as soon as the Kyoto Protocol came out, you had the forces of the oil industry and Alberta saying, why should we do this when China and India aren't even on it? And yet, the whole point of Kyoto was we agreed the industrialized countries had created the problem. They were still the major contributors to the problem. And so it was our responsibility to show that we had capped our growth and would begin to decline, and then the others would be brought on. And I still say that we in the industrialized world created the problem. If we don't show leadership, if we continue to say we've got to have more, why on earth should the Chinese pay any attention to us? Why should they do what we refuse to do ourselves? So it's really up to the industrialized countries to show the leadership.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that.
At the end of the day, what gives you hope?
Well, I have grandchildren, and that's all I have at the end is hope. And, I interviewed Jim Lovelock, who invented the idea of Gaia, and he's basically given up. He says 90% of humanity will be dead by the end of the century, and, population will drop. And I refuse to accept that because we have no idea how forgiving nature can be. And right now, the biggest impediment to action is the government we have in Ottawa. That government is, I think, what they're doing now in the face of all the scientific information, in the face of all of the evidence that if we don't do anything, it's going to destroy the economy. What they are doing by not acting is criminal. It's an intergenerational crime. And I hope Canadians register their concern.
Thanks for listening to the Corporate Knights podcast. For future episodes, please visit www.corporateknights.ca and click on multimedia.